Good morning. And what a morning it is. It is early morning and I am on the highway driving quite quickly because that's how I roll, literally. I'm driving home right now to meet a friend of mine who is a turtle taxonomist. This is somebody who writes papers to describe species, new species. And I'll be meeting him because we'll be taking some photographs of several different species. One of the ways, it used to be more important, more heavily weighted in, decisions to describe species or not than it is now, because now we have in recent decades, genetics is such an important piece. So morphology, which is basically the outward appearance of an animal, is very important. But we see that that can vary based on locality or just kind of, genetically two animals can still be the same. So basically genetics are the most heavily weighted portion of the big picture when we're actually describing species. But the photography, the morphology, that outward appearance is still an important piece of the puzzle. So with that, especially when we're just looking and trying to differentiate two species from each other, like consider South American, two South American mud turtles may have, scute seams on their plastron that are different in one species than another. So, the femoral scute seam is longer than the pectoral scute seam in this species, and it's the opposite in the other species. So we see that with some of these species that are similar and tough to differentiate. So anyway, we'll be taking photos today of some animals that can be used in future papers. There's a lot of comparative morphology where we look at, okay, this animal is different because look at this whole slew of animals and how they have this characteristic, and this one is unique. So anyway, we'll be doing that. So I'm trying to rush home right now to get to my friend to do that. And then why am I on the road early in the morning? Well, a very nice family decided that it was time that they needed to find a new home for their pet Herman's tortoise. It's an Eastern Herman's, Testudo hermani boetgeri. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. And he's lived the most recent parts of his life indoors in like one of those wooden tortoise habitats. So now this tortoise will be going to live outdoors with us in a more natural habitat. And they took good care of him, really good care of him. But now it's time for a new chapter for this little tortoise. So we're happy to help out. And it is something that we do from time to time. And, it's all about providing a great living environment, habitat for these animals as best we can, and also understanding when it's important for even us to say no, because we can only keep so much and keep it manageable and keep it all happy. So this fit into what we're doing. So I went out this morning and we'll give this tortoise a home. Most of the species we keep are endangered or even extinct in the wild, but we do keep Herman's tortoises really for the sole reasons for that are number one, they're just fun to keep. And then also they really do fit our environment here in the Northeast, where it does get cold, warm, humid summers, cold, dry winters, that sort of thing. So it does work for us. So anyway, another day in paradise. Right now we're out here in the backyard, and Mehdi's had me going into the greenhouse already to go into the ponds. I got my pants rolled up because I'm basically going swimming here in my own backyard into the little ponds in the greenhouse to grab out some animals and take some photos that'll be used for science to build kind of a library of images that can be used anytime you're looking at potentially trying to figure out what species is what and all of that. So this is, as Mehdi says, this is kind of he's building this amazing a collection of images that'll be used for years to come, so that hopefully they can help people in the future who are looking to continue to make sense and carry the torch in terms of describing species and sorting everything out and all of that. So it's really cool to be a part of it, and just having a good time, feeling like I'm contributing. And then also that, I think these animals have an important job to do here, producing other little turtles, but to add to that now a new wrinkle of importance to these animals and the images that will be taken of them. So Mehdi's doing his thing. He's got a female Cohelan box turtle, one of the rarest turtles in the world. And then the male is right here, waiting for his turn. Mehdi, you have a system, my friend.
Almost a science.
Almost a science. And for science.
Always.
Hi, Mehdi. Good morning. Why is my turtle on a drum platform?
Oh, it paid for a special service? Fulfilling our obligation. But in reality, this is how I get turtles to cooperate for their moment in the sun.
This is awesome.
So to speak. So by doing this, they're comfortably elevated, and I can get all the different angles of the shell and the scutes and the soul side that we need for any type of turtle research into the taxonomy.
So this is called what you're looking at is called the morphology of the turtle. So that's the shape of everything, every little relationship between scutes and scales and markings, and basically everything that you can see on an animal. And then using that to sort out taxonomy or the scientific nomenclature, the what species and subspecies are what. And right now you're looking at Cora pani, Pan's box turtle, which is a species that's near and dear to my heart, species that I hatched for the first time this year. It is a rare species.
Rare and endangered.
And right, rare in captivity and in the wild, which is not always the case for some rare animals. These guys really need all the help they can get. So how many species have you described?
Between fossil and living, I think with my coworker Bill McCord, we've described almost 60 new species and subspecies.
That's absolutely unbelievable.
With close to another 60 coming. So we'll work with fossils, but the living animals are actually more cooperative.
Ooh,
this guy's ready to go.
That's right. We got a runner over there. I was saying before you did this, I don't know, you're going to have to get lucky to make this work with pani. Yeah. But
I'm going to give him a little shower so we can wet the shell.
Yeah, he's looking a little crusty.
See, from start to finish, it's process mid-rate. Take the dorsal shell first. Perfect day for photography because it's overcast, so you get a lot of the natural lighting without any of the harsh shadows. And now I'm just going to keep going around the turtle or spin it sometimes if I need to twist it, but I prefer to move around it physically.
So cool.
This guy looks like he's going to cooperate.
I love it. Good job, buddy.
Turtle treat for him later for me.
Always.
Yeah. And soon after they feel comfortable up there, elevated, and they'll start really cooperating so we can get the scales, the head shape, head coloration, head pattern. Yeah. The tip and trick if you have a shy turtle is to just slowly rotate it either towards or away from you, because its eye gets fixed on something in the distance, and then the head will position very favorably for these lateral images. And they're a little feisty at first, but when they get used to it, then they'll really be ideal models. I think they're already starting to
starting to tire himself out. Do you find that there's any distinguishing characteristic that in turtles tends to be more important when you're looking to differentiate two species?
Well, depending on the genus or the groupings of turtles, they have a lot of characters in common. That's what forms the basis of their natural grouping into families and genera. And while most species do have a few diagnostic characters that will separate them regardless of their coloration. But the reason I like working with living animals is you get a little bright, beautiful, glorious coloration. And these absolutely do separate animals and species from each other. So in this group, the box turtles, shell shape, obviously, because in the Amboinensis group, you'll have higher domed animals.
Yeah.
These are much more aquatic than some of the other koalas, like the Vietnamese koala.
Yep.
So,
The flowerback, the Galbinifrons complex.
right shot there, we got all his scales.
I love it. What's also great about these platforms is, a lot of times you see great photos of turtles, but they're in someone's hand,
Yeah.
or even in the grass. It's going to come up and block some of the body, some of the legs, and obviously you need to see every single millimeter of the turtle in order to put the puzzle together.
If you're going to photograph the top of the head, good tip is to be behind it. This. But right now I'm getting direct on you to be able to see all the wrinkles in the head. These type of turtles don't have scales on the head. They do have beautiful patterns. The most important component is patience.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that in action now working with you on this.
With turtles, we just have to be ready for that one opportunity you're going to get the angle you need.
Now, you had told me something really interesting in the past, last week actually, about...
That's ancient history.
That is water under the bridge. I was asking about the difference between, different shape factors in the morphology and then color related things or pattern related things, because there could be variation from animal to animal. And even within this group of pani that I have here, I have two adult females and they look a lot different than one another. So how many of the characteristics that you look at, or what percentage would you say is based on color as opposed to scales and that sort of thing?
Well, for example, the character number I use will vary. For example, in the koala box turtle, as I said earlier, there's no scales on the head. But in the African mud turtle genus Pelusius, the entire head is scaled. And those scales are diagnostic species. So it's ideal to photograph as many different specimens of a species as you can so that you can get an accounting for the variation in the characters, and hopefully you can start determining which characters are fixed and which are variable and mean something, and which are variable and are insignificant. But as far as coloration may be a component of 10 to 15% of the characters. The rest are in the shell, and then a small majority probably on the scales themselves. And in turtles, something important seems to be the ratio of the different lengths, scutes, where they contact each other along the side, and when we flip them, we'll do a little lesson in the scales on the plastron. All right, so we're gonna flip this guy now, and look at that! What a beautiful pattern.
That's pani, all right.
Images doesn't always work depending on the species, but you kind of cover them here on their side. When eventually they come out to look, that's when you'll be able to get an image of the throat. And then sometimes I'll rotate them a little bit just so that they know that they can move. See, like that. to talk about. They're back in the pond.
It really is like the equivalent of being abducted by aliens. They poked and prodded me and then let me go. And then nobody believes them. So we're just sitting here waiting for Spangler Eye to wake up and that one female pan eye still, but this one's waking up. Do you want some more Spangler Eye from different places?
Oh yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go get those. You keep going. Looks like you've got a cooperator. So as Mehdi's taking these really important photographs, I should also just take a moment to show you the species that we're talking about. Now, we have highlighted these in other recent videos, but let me just say, what I'm holding right here, we're talking about the differences in locality. So the main first difference that can't be denied is that these smaller, and now I'm smelling why they're called stink pots. The main reason that we want to take a really close look at these is because what I held in my hand are both adult females. So these Central Florida localities, specific localities, can have very, very small animals, and females are generally, you know, large. They're carrying eggs, that sort of thing. Sometimes with Cynothrus, males do get pretty big, particularly with Carinatus, the razorback musk turtle. But anyway, you see, these are very different animals. They have similar markings. They both do look like stink pots, but this is an adult female. I had a female lay eggs that was smaller than this one that I'm holding in my hands. So you see the difference is quite stark. So that's why we're doing what we're doing, and we'll see, you know, what ends up coming from it. So check this out. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Stink pots are always small when they're babies, but these things are just ridiculous. And these aren't even fresh babies. You can see the new growth on them. These have been growing. They're eating well?
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. So anyway, Mehdi is going, because he's a glutton for punishment, is going to look at the babies next. Shot of him doing it. That's really cool. So now we're looking at Claudius, which is a separate genus. It's considered a musk turtle. They have the reduced plastron, and the common name is the narrow bridge musk turtle, but I like to refer to them as the vampire musk turtle because of the two cusps they have on the side of the beak, the upper beak. And they're a great species that is really well known for kind of hiding, almost being fossorial for the most of their existence, and then coming out when the weather makes sense for them to come out. When they get rains and just kind of sense that things are wet, they come out and do their thing. But yeah, really cool species that's really popular in, you know, among captive keepers because they're small and they have a great attitude that is a lot of fun to watch. They're fun to feed, so sometimes they get a little bit chunkier. But there's actually two types of these, Mehdi, you think?
Yeah, there's a western type that ranges in Veracruz, Mexico, and then there's this type, which is the eastern type, which is endemic to Belize. So when Anthony said that these have a great attitude, the attitude is they'll destroy everything in their path. That's a warpath attitude. There was a famous turtle collector in the early 1930s who had brought these back from Belize along with a series of slider turtles, and unwittingly he kept them with the hatchlings of the sliding turtle, and our good friend Claudius made quick work of each of them.
I believe it, for sure.
So those turtles are literally in half. But these are highly endangered animals. There's a distinct possibility that they will be extinct in the wild within the next 5 to 10 years. So the conservation work that people like Mark and Anthony are doing will ensure the survival of this species.
And that's when preservation becomes conservation, right? We're preserving turtles in captivity just in case something happens, but sometimes animals are going extinct. This is a species that's come into the US even in within the last decade, quite a bit, really. And that's not always legal. Over the last 5 years, Mehdi has been a part of a really taxonomist team that has done an incredible amount of describing new turtles and you know what's accepted, in the overall, like checklist, the end all be all checklist that kind of has like the group of governing folks who kind of make those decisions. It takes a long time for that to kind of come to be, but as you see, these are 10 different Batagra monographs with new species being described, and some of these may stick and some of them may not, and my knowledge of these things is limited, so forgive me, but basically these all have an ISSN number, and you see here they have the group led by Dr. Bill McCord, a great friend of ours, also John Can in Australia, and basically this collection of folks goes in and looks at species and says, here, this is what we think we have. And they showed, detailed morphologic traits, which is what we're looking at with these photos, and then actually describing the species or subspecies here in the literature. So what happens is over time, if someone ends up looking at this more deeply, like Mehdi says, 40, 60 years from now, they're going to be able to build on what's already here, what's already been published. Thanks so much for watching this video. There are lumpers and splitters out there. Lumpers believe that a lot of these species and subspecies need to be synonymized and grouped together as one. And splitters believe that these very, subtle differences between one animal to another across localities should be officially recognized, right? And split off from the rest so that we don't lose species like we actually have in the past. There are actually been turtle species that have gone extinct because we haven't recognized them. So this process with Mehdi has been amazing, and I hope you enjoyed taking a peek at what we were working on. And let us know in the comments, are you someone who is a little bit more of a lumper or a little bit more of a splitter, and why? Because I think this is a really important debate. It's not going away, and it's one of the beautiful things about the work that we do and the science around these animals. So thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit like or subscribe, let your friends know about these videos, and have a good one.
Hit subscribe, join the crew. Just turtles, there's always something new.